Hello everyone! I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Today I'm going to be talking about all the things related to planning a trip to Walt Disney World. Now, there's a lot to cover on this topic, so I'm trying to narrow it down to kind of like the, top 5 do's and the top 5 don'ts. I'm also going to include a few other things that are kind of like a must do when you are planning a trip to Walt Disney World before you even start looking at like the do's and don'ts. Without further ado, let's get into it. So the reason I decided to make this video now is my husband and I, Alex, are planning to go back to Walt Disney World later this year. It's going to be sort of a short trip, not very long. So the amount of planning that's involved with our trip, it's only going to be like 2 nights. It's a very quick trip because we have other things planned. So I've started getting into things, getting things going, getting the ball rolling with our planning. But I thought I would put a few tips together to, maybe help you out if you are planning a trip anytime soon. And hopefully these things will help you out. So the first thing that you want to do before you even get into the nitty-gritties is set your budget. Walt Disney World is, it's a pricier vacation. If you want to know, what you might be looking at, what you might be spending, have a look at my budget video that I made a little while ago. I will leave a link to it down below, or perhaps link it up here somewhere for you. Check that out. It will kind of give you an idea of what you might expect to spend and on a trip that's like around like 5 to 6 nights. That's a good place to start. You do want to set a budget because it will kind of be the deciding factor of a lot of other factors that are involved. Where you're going to stay, what are you going to do, where are you going to eat, like all those things. So once you have your budget in mind, then you can proceed to the next step. Choose your dates. Some people might have more flexibility on your dates. Do you want to go when there's special occasions happening, like Halloween, Christmas? Do you want to go when prices are at their absolute lowest, which would be shoulder seasons like January, February? Sometimes there's a few weeks around in August or September. Another factor to consider, are you going to drive or are you going to fly? If you live in the United States, you may be within a radius where you can drive. There are people who live in Canada that sometimes will find it cheaper to drive down, depending on, of course, where they live. If you are close to like the eastern seaboard, it is much easier to drive to Walt Disney World. If you want to fly, obviously you'll get there a lot faster. Have to look into travel documents and everything like that, but make sure you decide whether you want to fly or drive, and that kind of goes along with your budget that you've set as well. Once you have your budget, once you know your dates, and now you know the costs of getting to Walt Disney World, you will want to decide on staying on-site or staying off-site. Are you really set on staying at a Disney resort? Then by all means, look into the Disney resort and that will go along with your budget. But say your budget's a little bit lower, or say you don't want to be immersed in the Disney magic 24/7. Look at staying off-site. Then your next thing is to look at what ticket type you might want to have. There are lots of different varieties of ticket types that you can get for Walt Disney World. There's 1 park per day, there's park hoppers, you could get park hopper with water parks, there's annual passes, there's special event tickets. The next step that you will want to do is park reservations. Now, this is a thing that happened after the pandemic sort of thing. When the parks reopened, they set this park reservation system where you do actually have to make a reservation for the park that you want to go to on the day that you're planning. So make sure you do that because the park reservations do sell out. And then the last thing you'll look at is dining. Do you want to be dining at more popular Disney restaurants? If that's the case, you'll want to make sure you make reservations 60 days in advance. Do you want to dine off-site? If that's the case, you'll want to look into maybe renting a car, going off-site more, that sort of thing. So whenever I'm planning my trip, these are kind of the things that I will look at and make sure, I check all the boxes and make sure all of these things are covered. And then I find it just helps the overall flow of my trip. And then I make sure that I'm not missing anything. let's get into some do's and don'ts. These do's and don'ts aren't all encompassing, of course. These are just things that I find have helped me in the past, or these are things that I have learned based off of other trips that I have taken. So now it's kind of like the sort of Bible that I go by because, mistakes have been made and we learn from our mistakes. The first thing that you're going to want to do before you even leave your house is download the My Disney Experience app. Get familiar with it. Familiarize yourself how to use it because you're going to be using this app pretty religiously when you're at the parks, especially if you've booked a Genie Plus or if you want to get lightning lanes, if you want to use mobile orders for any restaurants. There's lots of information that you can find on this app. So make sure someone in your party or family or yourself who has a smartphone downloads this app before you leave your house. There might be times when you're like, man, I really want to go back to Disney World. I want to go next week or, in 2 weeks. I'm just going to book last minute and it'll be totally fine. Well, that might not be the case. There are so many factors involved now when booking a trip to Walt Disney World, and the popularity has just skyrocketed. So I would say don't book a last minute trip to Disney World because a lot of things may not be available. If you are going to book last minute, make sure you're very, very flexible. Flexible with your dates, flexible with dining, flexible on where you want to stay, flexible even on the parks you want to go to. If you are new to Walt Disney World, it's your first time, or you haven't been in a long time, don't book last minute because I think you would be a little bit disappointed. Booking dining reservations is very important to do, especially if you want to dine at some of the more popular restaurants on Disney property. You will definitely want to book on that 60-day booking window, or else you'll end up probably being disappointed or not being able to find what you want. You can continue to check dining availability, all the way up to the time of your trip. You can even go up the day of and ask for availability if you weren't able to book it before your trip. Sometimes you might luck out, but make sure you are booking dining reservations before you leave, especially if you have your heart set on certain restaurants for your trip. This one is a big one because when you're there on your trip, you're going to be doing a lot of walking. I have learned this the hard way, and that is don't wear new shoes. If you're buying new shoes, sandals, whatever it may be, make sure you're breaking those babies in before you leave. Put them on while you're walking around the house. Break them in, maybe do a couple laps around the block in them. Just make sure you're breaking in any new shoes that you have bought. Don't buy them the day before your trip. Don't buy them when you're at the park and, wear them. If you do get new shoes, make sure you're prepared with like Band-Aids and blister Band-Aids because you're doing a lot of walking. Take my advice. Don't wear any new shoes. Make sure you bring shoes that you've had at least for a while or you've broken in and you know that they're 100% comfortable because, again, your feet will thank you later. In my opinion, I think staying at a Disney resort is something that you should definitely do, especially if you're a big Disney fan and you love being immersed in that Disney bubble 24/7. The Disney resorts, now there aren't as many perks as there used to be, but they're just so lovely. I think they are very well themed. They're very convenient with the bus transportation. You feel safe at them. There's lots of security. They have the restaurants there. And they're just overall a great experience. So if you can, and if it's in your budget and you're a big Disney fan and love everything and all there is with Disney and you have, or maybe you have kids as well, I would say stay at a Disney resort. When you're finally at the parks and you have been doing all that walking around, one thing you got to remember is don't be sleeping in. There are lots of time frames that you have to be aware of when you are finally there on property. There's certain things like booking Genie Plus reservations or lightning lanes. You should be up at 7 a.m. or before 7 a.m. to book those because that's when the window opens versus the regular public who are at actually 9 a.m. And also if you say you don't want to do Genie Plus but you want to get on those rides, you don't want to be sleeping in. You want to be getting up, getting ready, getting to the park for rope drop because you will have the best chance of getting on rides ahead of the crowds and not waiting as long for these rides. Don't be sleeping in. Make sure you're setting that alarm. Disney World vacation is not necessarily a vacation that you will be relaxing on. But again, it really depends on the type of trip that you want. But if you're looking to experience rides and attractions, don't be sleeping in because you may regret it and you will be waiting a lot longer for these rides if you're not getting there when the parks open. One thing that I learned from my last trip, and this was actually the first time using this, is getting a magic band. This is something I would do because it kind of simplifies everything. I remember, years ago, before magic bands were a thing, they would give you this little ticket, and, every time you would get to the gates, you'd have to pull out the ticket and put it in the thing, there was a lot of fumbling and jumbling with all your stuff. And now with the magic band, it's on your it's on your wrist, and all you do is you just tap it. You don't have to reach for anything, you don't have to look for anything. I know you can get the tickets, you could scan it with using your phone, but again, you're still pulling something out of your pocket and having to scan it. Same with the ticket. If you have just a ticket card, you're still having to search for it. There's just a lot of fumbling. I really liked using the magic bands, and they come in all different designs and colors, and it's just an extra souvenir that you can have as well. And if you order them ahead of time and you're staying at a Disney resort, you can actually get them engraved and have your name on it or any name that you want on it. So I think that's also a great aspect of getting a magic band as well. Magic Band Plus, I don't have experience with, so I can't say one way or another if you should go with the Magic Band Plus route. They are quite a bit more expensive, but they have some cool designs on there as well. But yeah, I would say get a magic band. I think it would be worth it for your trip. When we were at the parks the last time, there was a lot of times where I would see something that I wanted to buy, and then I would be like, no, I'll just wait until later. I'll get it later. That didn't always work out to my benefit. You see something that you like, don't wait to buy it. Merchandise I found would just be flying off the shelves these days. It's just, everything is just so popular, and due to some of the inventory or supply chain issues still, I'm finding that Disney's just having a hard time keeping the more popular items stocked. So if you do see something that you really, really want or really like, just buy it. Don't wait, because you may end up being disappointed later on in your trip. For example, I wanted these random mini graham cracker cookies. I had seen them at that Disney store at the Orlando airport, and I was like, okay, no worries, I'll just get them later, or maybe when we're coming back, because I didn't want to be carrying them around the whole time, or whatever I forget what reason I had, but I ended up not buying them. So I was like, okay, whatever. Then I ended up spending the rest of the trip, every place I looked, they didn't have them. And I was like, okay, what's going on? I'm like, well, I saw them at the airport. I'll just get them when we're flying back home. So our last day rolls around, we go back to the airport, and I go back to that Disney store, and lo and behold, they're sold out. And I know there's two Disney stores at the Orlando airport. I checked both, and both places were sold out. And yeah, I was very disappointed. And there was also another t-shirt I had looked for the entire trip. That one actually I never found my size for, but again, the more popular items, make sure you're buying them so you're not disappointed, and don't wait. Just buy it. You will be doing a lot of walking, and there will be a lot of stimulation. You'll be having lots of long days when you are going around at all the parks and the hotels and doing your dining and everything like that. So you want to make sure that you do make time to rest. Now, it depends on how long you are staying. If you're staying a week, you may have more opportunity for rest days. If you're staying for 2 weeks, you'll have a lot more opportunity for rest days. But say you're only going for 3 or 4 days, now there's 4 parks. You may be wanting to do 1 park every day. That's totally fine. But if you have little ones, or say, you're not used to walking around for long times, it's really hot outside, make sure you're planning time to rest. Go back to the hotel during the day, maybe during the hottest part of the day, which is usually around 1 or 2 o'clock, and that's usually when crowds are at their highest. That would be a great opportunity to leave the park, go back to the resort, take a nap, be in AC, maybe go for a swim in the pool. Just rest, get off your feet, relax. You will find that will keep up the morale of your family or the group that you're with, and keep everybody sort of happy. I have found now that I am starting to get older that these rest times are so much more important. I used to be very commando Jen and just go all the time, pack it all in. And then by the end of the trip, I needed a vacation from my vacation. So I would say fit in a rest period, whether it be a whole day rest time where you don't do anything and you're just chilling at the resort or chilling doing other stuff, or you take 2 to 3 hours or 1 to 2 hours out of your day just to get off your feet. You will thank me later. My last advice for when you are planning a trip to Walt Disney World is don't try to do everything. Whether you're going for 3 days or a week or 10 days, just don't expect that you will get everything that you want to do done. It's almost impossible to do everything that is on offer at the parks, at the resorts, everything like that. That's what they're trying to do, right? They want to make it so that you can't do everything in one trip because they want you to come back, obviously. So they're going to keep adding things. They're going to have so much on offer that it's just not possible to fit it all in. Live in the moment, have fun while you're there, be flexible, stay positive. And if you keep all that in mind with these do's and don'ts, I think you will have a very lovely, fun, and amazing trip. So there you have it. There is my top 5 do's and don'ts when you're planning a trip to Walt Disney World. Again, this is all based on my experience, and I'm hoping that some of these may help you as you are planning your next trip. Make sure you like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe, share it, do all the things, and I so appreciate you all watching. Until next time, I will see you all again very soon. Bye!